Good morning, friends. My name is Shelby. If you are new here, welcome to my channel and welcome to my garden. Right now we are under one of my cattle panel trellises that is being covered by a sugar pie pumpkin. I'm so excited to be filming today. I love filming garden tour videos. They're some of my favorite ones. I love just talking about the progress, documenting what is happening, and then looking back later. So come along with me. I've got a lot to show you guys. Let's start out with my in-ground garden rows. Now, to the naked eye, it might not seem like there's a lot going on, but when I take you in for a closer look, you will see that there is actually a whole lot of life that is just ready to take off. To start out, here is our watermelon. It seeded itself from the spring, so I just allowed some of the watermelon to kind of like rot and die off, and then they just reseeded themselves, did their thing like nature had intended. These are the Dixie Queen watermelon. I have this hunch that anytime you just like let the plant kind of reseed itself, those plants are the ones that just always do the best. I'm sitting here right now next to my butternut squash. I'm really surprised to see that we actually have a lot of fruits forming. Lots of female flowers just keep popping up every day. If I could have too much of anything, it would be any type of squash. Right next to the butternut squash, I have my acorn squash growing. And for a little bit there, I thought that they weren't gonna do well and that they were gonna just kind of die off. I feel like in the beginning of most squash plants' lives, there's like a make or break time, at least from my experience. These particular acorn squash plants, they were really staggering for a while, and I was like, they're done. I've already started new acorn squash seeds because that's how like convinced I was that they just weren't gonna do well. But now, they're just like making a comeback. Certainly hard to see, but we have a lot of carrot sprouts, which is one of my favorite things to grow. They taste so amazing. Carrots take a really long time to germinate, so I was really surprised when these actually did germinate successfully because it was so hot and they were drying out so much. But I do have a lot of carrot sprouts to show off. It is so amazing outside right now, like so misty. It's a misty morning. Can you see that right now? The weather is amazing. It's like 70 degrees. It's so nice. Let's keep going. All right, so in this row I have a bunch of beets on one side, and then on the other side I have a bunch of onions. So you can see the beets over here. See my little beets right there? We've got some onions growing too. I just sowed like a whole new round of beets, which is good to do like succession sowing because you don't want like 1,000 beets all ready to go at the same time. And I also did a lot more onion sowing too. So I'm hoping that this row will just be loaded with onions on one side and beets on the other side. All right, behind me, I don't know if you can see very well, is my cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli. I've got the red acre cabbage growing. I also have the a purple variety of cauliflower and the Romanesco variety of broccoli. I believe it's a broccoli. So it's gonna look super interesting here. They're all experiencing a little bit of pest damage right now, but it's nothing that is going to end these plants. And at the front of all of these beds, there are like just bunches of sunflowers that I have grown. So in a few weeks, we're going to have some really colorful varieties of plants growing here, as well as some sunflowers. So I think it's going to look super cool. The entire side of this garden, I have put loads of sunflowers down, lots of sunflower seeds. As you can see, a lot of them have started to sprout already, which is going to be just like this fun sunflower wall. This is the spaghetti squash portion of my garden. They are doing really well, just like with the acorn squash and with the butternut squash for a little bit there. I thought that they were not going to do well and kind of be a goner due to pest. But I did load all of these plants up with some worm castings, and I just really was proactive with also spraying BT on them too and doing manual inspections, and they have also made it past the first onslaught of pests. So I've got some beautiful kale growing here. This is just going to be my kale bed. I have a few different varieties. I've got the curly leaf variety. I've got a scarlet variety. I have like an ancient type variety that my mom gave me. I think I have at least 4 different varieties in here. I love kale. It's like a superfood. It's so good. There's so many really positive ways that you can incorporate it into your diet. For me, when we start growing kale, once it gets to a certain point, it actually lasts for like years in our garden. We don't have to do like a big harvest because of freezes or anything like that. It just pretty much thrives for at least 1 or 2 years. This is my square foot garden. I feel like I just filmed this video like last week, but really it was a few weeks ago. If you haven't seen my square foot garden video, I will link it in here. Basically, it's just showing you how I did these little super easy grids in this garden bed. That way we could maximize the amount of plants in one specific garden bed. So with both sides of this cattle panel trellis, I have the muncher cucumbers growing, and I am really hoping that they keep growing well, because in the beginning they were stunted, as with all of my other plants, and I feel like collectively all of the plants were like, you know what, we're gonna make it through, we've got this. So they have pushed through the pest issues, the stunted growth, and everything collectively has just started to take off all at the same time. Fingers crossed that the cucumbers trellis over and we get some pickles. Corn, I've got some healthy looking corn growing all on the very edge of this bed. Now originally I had hoped to fill up this whole bed with corn, but this is just all that germinated and all that, you know, wanted to fight through. So I'm really looking forward to the few ears of corn that we're going to have. Fingers crossed, no bugs get up in there and eat through the corn. We shall see. I'm sitting here in my zucchini bed, my zucchini raised bed. Now this particular zucchini plant, or like the set of plants in here, are not doing very good, but on the flip side, they look hardy, like they're really trying their hardest. So caterpillars have been like mercilessly attacking them, even despite me applying BT to them, but they're still growing, and it looks like none of these attacks are like actually knocking them out. What I'm doing is I'm keeping these plants in here no matter what. I want them to be like a bait plant, for example, because it seems like the caterpillars, or whatever the case is, they're attracted to this particular zucchini plant and they're largely leaving alone my other plants now. I'm hoping that it's just acting as a bait plant and that it will deter those caterpillars and those moths and things like that from the other plants that are doing really well. This is my flower bed. I've got some zinnias in here. I've got some different sunflowers in here and things like that. Truthfully, I just like dumped a handful of sunflowers in this bed and my other flower bed that is right back there, because I just want like an abundance of sunflowers. I pretty much walked around to every single bed and just like put sunflower seeds everywhere, which I always tell myself don't do that, because the sunflower root system is like, it's really deep, and typically whenever I take a sunflower out of a bed, it takes a lot of soil with it and a lot of nutrients. So keep that in mind when you're planting sunflowers in your beds, because they will take a lot from those beds, and you really have to like shake out all the soil off of the sunflowers. That's why I have these ones designated for sunflowers and just any type of flowers. And I'm also going to have 2 new flower beds at the front of the garden. I'm just kind of changing the way that I do the middle part of this garden. I've actually gotten rid of a few different beds, and I plan to get rid of a few more beds, because what I'm doing instead is planting some tropical trees. I want tropical flowers. We've planted a lot of different papaya trees recently. I think about like 7 or 8 papaya trees through the central part of the garden. I planted 2 different banana trees, and I also planted, well, I plan to plant some like hibiscus and things like that. So if anybody is familiar with this zone and they know of different plants that they would recommend that would be ideal for kind of like planting in the middle part of this garden that won't overtake the garden, such as like banana trees or papaya trees, please drop some suggestions, because I'm genuinely trying to make the center part of this garden more full of foliage, where it's kind of like a little tropical forest. I really want to change it up and not have it just be so like desolate anymore. All right, I wish you guys had like smell vision right now, because just touching this is like lighting a basil candle. It smells just heavenly. In this bed, I've got some snap peas, or these I have to look back in like one of my videos because I don't remember what kind of peas they are. I put peas in 3 different beds in the garden. So these ones are doing really, really well. I've also got 2 different varieties of lettuce in here. I've got, it's like a black variety of lettuce. I don't think it's actually black, but that's just what the seeds were called. And then I also have a variety from Baker Creek that I don't remember what the name is. And then walking over just right next door, we've got more peas. I didn't have time to set up like a cattle panel trellis or any type of trellis or anything like that. So I just stuck a whole bunch of bamboo sticks in the ground. And as you can see, they are climbing up them just fine. So if you don't have a trellis or the ability to build one or anything like that, you don't want to spend money on an expensive one at the grocery store, just get a bunch of sticks, stick them in the ground, and that pretty much works. I'm using bamboo, but if I didn't have bamboo, I mean, you could just use some sticks. That's super easy way to resolve that problem. Middle part is like the kind of shooting variety of broccoli that you can kind of clip off a few times. So we're going like all out brassica crazy over here. Right next to this bed, speaking of brassicas, we have some Brussels sprouts, lots of Brussels sprouts. So we're gonna be real healthy up in this house. We've got some Brussels sprouts, kale, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. It's going to be an abundance of health. I'm here at my big heart bed. If you are somebody who has like a main bed in your garden, definitely drop a comment and let me know. This is like our main bed in the garden, although I feel like other beds are starting to kind of like give it a run for its money. But anyways, this is the first bed that we built. It's huge. I don't remember how long it is, but it's really, really big. I've got some purple beans here. We've got different cabbages and cauliflowers and things like that. I'm just trying to shove as much like cabbage and cauliflower wherever I can. If you're looking to really fill out a cattle panel trellis, I wouldn't necessarily recommend green beans. It didn't really matter to me this time around. I just needed some arches. I know I wanted some green beans. And the good part about growing green beans on the cattle panel trellises is that they're really, really easy to get to. I mean, you just walk underneath and you just pull them. So the harvesting is much, much easier. It just doesn't have that like dramatic look. So for me, I was actually looking more for like a practicality standpoint rather than being so concerned with like what it looked like. So they are growing up. If you wanted to really fill out your cattle panel trellises with green beans, you probably could add like another piece of like some type of fencing or metal, such as like this one right here, zip tied to the inside. That would add like a thicker grid system and make it so that the green beans can be fuller and not just go on like along these particular pieces of metal. Regardless, I'm just super happy to have green beans growing, because if you are making like a quick dinner or anything like that, having fresh garden green beans is just like, it's so easy. It's like a no-brainer. And then right here, I've got my arugula. This arugula is doing really well. If you've never grown arugula before, be prepared, because like the second you put the seeds in the ground, I feel like the arugula germinates. It's really, really, really easy to grow. It's probably one of the easiest things to grow. If you have a little kid and you want to do like some type of like a children's garden, I would definitely recommend growing arugula and like radishes, because those things are going to grow super quickly. And like, what is better than some fresh arugula? Throw it on pizza, throw it in your nice Italian dishes at home, make a whole dang salad with arugula. So very healthy, good stuff over here. We've got oregano in the back, just like an abundance that we have more than enough of. I've got some onion chives in the back too. Those were just from the grocery store. I just got some chives and I just literally shoved them in the ground, that's it. And now we have just like an endless supply of chives. I have some cilantro right there too, and then of course the arugula like I just talked about. So this is typically like our herb type of bed. I need to put some rosemary in here and some basil because my other basil plant is kind of running its course. You might be hearing the birds around me and going like, what is going on? So I think that all like the seasonal birds have migrated down here. I don't know if I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, but I feel like every year around this time there are new birds that are here, and I'm pretty sure like they've just migrated down here due to like the cold weather up north. Yep, they're all over here right now. They're like little finches. They're yellow and colorful. It's super cool. If I can get a little shot of them, I will. But that's what all the little bird chirping is from. So this is another bed full of peas. As you can see, I'm doing kind of like a little triangle formation up. I want them to trellis. And I also planted some sunflowers in the center part. I don't know if you can see that, but I will do a little close-up. So I want the sunflowers to be coming out of the middle part, and then the peas all around. So that's more like a visual work in progress. In the middle of this corn slash pumpkin slash cucumber bed, we're just putting everything in here. I also have some cauliflower growing. I've got some tomato plants growing that have seeded themselves from the spring, which are cherry tomato plants. I'll have to replant those because there's nowhere for those in here. And I'm also starting to figure out what works best on the cattle panel arch. So I've done a few different like tomato varieties, I've done green beans, and certain things look better than other things on the cattle panel arches. So if you're going to do tomatoes on the arches, I would definitely do an indeterminate variety. That way you're pretty sure that they're gonna like go over the top. If you are going to do green beans, it's going to be a little sparse, but the pumpkins are a total win, and I'm assuming that the cucumbers are going to be the same because the leaves are big, the foliage is really thick, and it gives it that like really mystical, dreamy look. I mean, like, look at that. Seriously, it looks so cool. I love it. As I was just saying with like this whole garden revamp, I'm also highly considering getting rid of these two beds right here. They just get like totally inundated with grass. They're really, really hard to manage. And I feel like it's just not worth it, honestly, to keep them in here because they're so much to maintain. So I'm considering getting rid of them and just putting more tropical like trees and things like that in its place. And then focusing more on expanding the outside of the garden, like the whole perimeter of the garden, and adding more rows and things like that, like in-ground, no-till type of rows. Thank you guys so much for watching my full garden tour video. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button and consider subscribing. I definitely appreciate it. And until next time, bye.